I directed an episode of television that premiered at the largest Black film festival in the entire world, and I'm gonna tell you how I did it. Hey, it's Jazz. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, then what up? And if you're not, then welcome black. I am a believer in Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ!
On this channel, I love discussing all things faith, film, fitness, and all that jazz. You had to see it coming. If you've seen my previous videos, you had to see it. I directed a TV pilot episode that premiered on one of the world's largest film festival stages, and I'm so excited to share with you how I did it, what it looked like, and what's next. The project is titled Offbeat, and it's a half-hour dramedy. So think like HBO's Insecure, FX's Atlanta, or Netflix's Dead to Me. So the show Offbeat centers a neurodivergent Black woman who is living a double life in LA. Essentially, it explores what being neurodivergent looks like when you're an adult, being on the spectrum as a full-grown adult, as a Black person, as a Black woman, which all maybe sounds a little bit heavy, but there's a lot of comedy sprinkled in between. So it's actually, I think, the perfect balance of comedy and drama. So as of now, we've only filmed the first episode, and the idea is to present the episode to investors, get it in front of people and executives who can actually do something about helping us film the rest. I would love for you guys to at least get a feel for what the project is like. I'm either gonna attach the trailer here or at the end of the video, but regardless, you're gonna see the trailer, and I hope you stay tuned to watch it and support us. So the project was written by a friend of mine named Paige Carroll. She is the creator, the writer, and executive producer. I directed the project, and I also co-produced. The irony is that the time that we both met each other, both of us had just gotten fired from our jobs. If you watch any of my previous videos on my Achilles tendon rupture and recovery journey, if you haven't seen it, I have a 7-video playlist on this channel that details my injury and my journey and road to recovery after I ruptured my Achilles. But that was around the time when I had gotten fired from my job, and it was around that same time that I ended up meeting Paige. We met on social media, hit it off, and realized that we had a lot in common creatively, and yeah, just decided to pair up and make something great. Obviously at the time we didn't know what would come of it, but it was really cool to see, like, wow, God really used that time where we thought it was all over and allowed us to be able to meet each other through that, make something beautiful from it. So I'll just quickly share a little bit about the filming process. The script was about like 22 pages. I think at one point it was like 30 pages, but we had to chop it way down because the project was shot independently, and an independent project means an independent budget, okay? And so we didn't have all the glitz and the glam and all the things that, you know, larger studios and bigger production companies in Hollywood would have. So we didn't have access to a lot of the equipment or the cast and crew that, you know, people on a large scale would have. So we had to use what we had. What did Mariah say?
I did the best I can with what I got.
Whatever. We had to do what we had to do with what we had, okay? We went through the pre-production process. We casted a bunch of folks. We were on so many Zoom meetings, watched so many audition tapes, and had so many meetings with potential cast and crew. We were finally in a place where we were ready to shoot. But about a week before shooting, we ended up having to recast a few different of the roles. The crazy part was these were like the main roles, so these weren't like side or background roles. These were like the two main characters. So you can imagine how stressful it was trying to recast and potentially halt filming in general because we had so many last minute changes, but it ended up working out for the better. I love our leads, Robert and Briere. If you guys are watching this, we love you. Thank you so much for stepping in last minute and just being amazing. You guys are great on screen. You look great. They're amazing, wonderful actors. Book them, okay? Book them. We even had a moment, like literally the night before our first day of shooting, we had a location change, and at first it was very stressful, I'm not gonna lie, but it ended up turning out for the better. Our DP, or director of photography, which in layman's terms is just the camera guy. Shout out to Kevin Chung. This is actually our 3rd project working together, so he's amazing, love him. Book him. He had a location, he had his brother's place that he allowed us to use, and it worked out perfectly because it was way larger than the place that we were initially gonna shoot because we didn't have the money. His brother lent us the place just off of his good graces. We didn't pay him a dime. And the good thing was that he was an artist, so he had a bunch of beautiful black art all over the house. A lot of his art ended up going in the actual project, which just turned out great because we couldn't afford a set decorator, so we couldn't decorate the set. Going into a place that was already really, really well decorated did wonders for our project because there wasn't much that we had to do on the back end. So shout out to Kev and shout out to Kev's brother. One moment that I remember in particular just being really, really proud of was we had a pretty much, I want to say like 99% all black cast and crew. We had one white guy in the cast, but it was very intentional reason why he was casted. If you see the project, you'll understand why. I want to say our first AC, who is our assistant camera, who does a lot of focus pulling and stuff like that, was of Asian descent. Loved it because black, brown, yellow, we're all together, okay? If you want to talk about it for real, all of us are under systems of oppression, but we're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into I don't want to talk about it. I don't know. I'm just a girl. But the point is, it was a mostly black cast and crew, and everyone who was there was a minority, and I loved it. And me as a co-producer, I was very intentional about bringing in people who looked like me and bringing in people who traditionally would not have the same opportunities if we were on a bigger, Hollywood scale set. I work on tons of projects. I've worked on a lot of Hollywood sets, and more often than not, I'm always the token and I'm always the minority. And so being in a space where we were the majority, it was amazing. Can't wait to get to a level where I can just continue to employ folks who look like me and continue to create versions of what our set was for Offbeat, but bigger versions of that throughout Hollywood. So this isn't my first project that I've directed. I've directed a few short films, I've co-directed a few things, and I've also directed a commercial campaign, which I'm very proud of and I actually don't talk about enough. So big up yourself, big up yourself. But even though it wasn't my first project, I will say it is my biggest project to date. So it's the longest project. The episode is about 30 minutes long. So it's literally a full episode of TV, and it's probably the largest scale that I've worked on. And there was a little bit of imposter syndrome, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit of and when I say a little, I mean a lot. I was very, very nervous, and I just had to fight against that voice that was telling me, like, you're not good enough, you haven't been doing this long enough, you're not meant to be here, there are other people who are more qualified or have more things on their resume. And I honestly just had to like fight against that voice and trust in my talent and my ability. I think something that was very validating was, in the pre-production process when I was creating a shot list with our DP, I had very specific shot ideas for certain things, and there were some very specific visions that I had as a director. It's a lot of like trying to get your vision across, and there were times where I was a little bit timid with my voice and nervous because I was like, I don't know if they're gonna trust, the vision that I have. So there were certain shots that I was very specific about. Our DP had an idea, and he was like, I think we should do it like this. But for me, it was a good idea, but I had something really specific in mind. He has way, way, way more experience than me. I don't know if he's gonna like trust, me and my vision. So when I said my idea, he was like, oh girl, that scratch what I said. We're doing that. We're doing that. And it was amazing to just feel validated and be like, wait a minute, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. Like, just sink into that feeling, own it. You're here for a reason. And do the thing. I think being on set helped me also kind of fall into that ownership of like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. And also just reminding myself like the success of the project isn't completely on me. Yes, I'm the director, but the writer has to write a really good script. The producers had to produce the heck out of that thing. The actors had to act, and they had to make the words convincing. Like, Paige can write whatever she wants, but if the actors don't say it in a believable way, it's not going to be portrayed to the audience in a way that's enjoyable. Doing things that allowed the actors freedom to be able to interpret the script in the way that they want. The best moments I found on set were times where the actors would just ad-lib and just kind of say things that came to their mind, or the writer wrote a funny joke. But then when the actor said it, they ad-libbed something that was even funnier, made the whole cast and crew behind the camera laugh. And you're like, this is genius. Forget what we wrote, forget what we said, forget how I directed it. Let's do that. So once I leaned more into that, I think I was like, okay, the success of the project is not on me. It's on me, the DP, the editor. Shout out to Jen, amazing editor. Genevieve Healy, amazing editor. Book her. book her. The camera operator, John Brooks, shout out to him. Book him. That guy is talented, okay? This is such a collaborative industry. Take some of that burden off of yourself to be like, yes, I am the director, but I am not responsible for all of this. One of the best pieces of advice I got was from another director who I had co-directed a project with, and she was like, let everyone be the expert in their own field. I'm not going to tell the lighting people how to light. I'm not going to tell the DP how to DP. I'm not going to tell the AC how to AC. They are all hired for a reason. Trust that they can do what they're doing. You focus on what you're doing, and then you just put all of your collective efforts together. It really did stick with me, and I brought that to the next set and the next set and the next set, and it helped me to, yeah, just like calm down, take my hands off of, you know, the control button. It obviously showed in the project. It was magic the way everything came together. Okay, now for festivals. The short of it is that we got accepted into a few festivals, but we got rejected from a handful of them, and it was a little bit disheartening at first, not gonna lie, because we were like, man, we have something good here. Like, we thought this was really good, and we're really proud of it. And so it was you know, a little bit gut-wrenching to get rejected from certain festivals. But okay, the lesson here is that it only takes only one. It doesn't matter, because the one that we did get was the largest Black film festival in the entire world, on the globe, guys. This was screened in person in Miami, Florida, but it was also virtually screened worldwide. So we had millions of viewers. That's crazy. We never would have been able to expose ourselves to an audience like that if it hadn't been for the festivals. Just a lesson to be like, you don't need 10 yeses, you don't need 30 yeses, you only need the one that matters. And what makes it even crazier is, like, I've been pursuing TV and film for about 5 years. Before that, I used to be a professional basketball player. And ever since I transitioned into the TV and film industry, I've always heard about ABFF. ABFF is the American Black Film Festival. That's the name of the festival that we went to. ABFF is like cream of the crop, right, when it comes to festivals. And not just Black festivals either, like festivals worldwide. But especially for Black festivals, it's like top tier. Year after year after year, I wasn't able to afford it, and it just never worked out with my schedule, and I just could never do it. After being in a Hollywood assistant, if you're an assistant, then you understand. So the irony of me getting fired, which led me to essentially making this film, which me not having that job anymore was also the only reason I had the freedom and ability and the money to even be able to afford to make it to the festival this year was crazy. Let's just say God does not waste time, okay? Nothing is wasted when it comes to God. I got to meet so many filmmakers, so many peers, and folks who I now consider my friends and as a part of my network. I got to meet so many celebrities, which is really cool to kind of be in the same space as a lot of the folks that I admire. To have some of them even show up to our screening and watch our project, like, oh my God, y'all, it was crazy. Before I close, I just want to emphasize that this whole process has taught me and just reminded me and showed me that God really is a restorer of time. He will restore time. Let me explain what I mean. So like I said, I used to be an athlete, right? So I used to play basketball, and because of playing basketball and going overseas and etc., I didn't go to film school. I was on a completely different career path before I switched and transitioned over into TV and film. When I first joined the industry, I felt like I was so behind. I felt like I had so much catching up to do, because a lot of the folks who, were in the industry at the time that I joined were people who straight out of high school went to college for TV and film, or after graduating, they went straight to grad school to get their MFAs and to go to film school. And I met them when we were all kind of moving to LA at the same time, or some people had been there way longer than me. So not only was I coming from a completely different industry, but I had no experience. One of the first opportunities that I did get was to be a PA on a film set. And if you don't know what a PA is, it's short for production assistant, which is essentially like the most entry-level position that you can get when you're joining the film industry. Being a PA is kind of like it's like a catch-all role, to be honest, because you literally catch everything. Go get the coffees, you go and make errands, and you go rent trucks, just little stuff like that. But it's a very thankless job, and it's very, very hard, and you get paid very, very little, if you even get paid at all. So one of my first jobs that I ever did was being a PA on a web series that was shot in Chicago. Y'all, the irony of that being 5 years ago. Now fast forward to being in Miami at the American Black Film Festival. One of the projects that was screened in the same filming block as my project just so happened to be directed by the same director that directed the series that I was a PA on for my first ever job. Crazy work. Fast forward 5 years later, I'm literally like his peer. I'm literally his peer. And it's insane because I used to, so many people that I consider, and sometimes still do consider, like, wow, they're higher than me, or, you know, because they have more things on their resume or they have more experience. And I think God is like really transitioning me and moving me into the space of, you know, going from fan to peer and being like, you ain't a fan no more. You ain't only a fan. You get it? Like OnlyFans. I couldn't let that one slip by without, okay. Essentially what I'm trying to say is God will restore those years. He will not let those years that you think are wasted, the years that you didn't go to film school, the years that you didn't train to do the thing, or you didn't have time to stack your resume like other people did. He will catapult you at the time that he wants to catapult you. As long as you remember, like, when you get there though, just remember that it wasn't all you. It wasn't all you. God did his big one. Everyone else is playing checkers and God is definitely playing chess. He's like, yeah, that may be what's traditionally done, but I am the Lord God of the entire universe. So I'm going to put you where I want to put you. Boop. Now you guys are going to be peers. Little nudges from God, little reminders to be like, I got this. Just keep going. I will put you where I need you to be. Okay, that's pretty much all I have for today. And if you're a filmmaker or an aspiring filmmaker, hit me up. I'm always down to collab. If you're someone who wants to donate as we continue on this journey and we try to get more funding to film the rest of the series, hit me up also. My DMs are definitely open for that. And I'm really hoping that this series and the other projects that I'm working on will also do the same thing. And more specifically for this story, continue to create representation for people who are neurodivergent, people who maybe are on the spectrum, people who deal with things that are a lot of times kind of like swept under the rug or pushed to the corners of society, and, you know, treat it like they don't matter, because they do. And I hope that Offbeat will show you that in a very quirky and hilarious way. Also, if you're a kid, maybe don't watch it, but it's a little spicy. I forgot to mention that. Don't forget to like, to comment, and please subscribe. I'm trying so hard to build this channel. Follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram. The links are in the description box. As always, I will catch you in the next video. Bye.